Tom, Mia, the Holocaust happened, right?
In theory.
What?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of proof of it.
There is.
So it'd be fact, not theory.
Well, it's not proof of lots of stuff.
Lots of documentaries on it.
It's about 99.9999999999999 and cut back in an hour. 99.999% certain that it happened.
Okay, so we're all agreed it happened.
I'd go
As
with
close as
100%,
we're
but
willing to.
yeah.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Cross-legged so that I don't kick the chair, because I always do if I put my feet on there.
You do? Well, sometimes. It's not too much.
Well, I normally notice when we're recording it, immediately do this.
Compared to the sounds of like e-cig and
Yeah.
teas, I don't think it's the worst.
We listened to the last one.
Which one?
One with Grace.
Yes.
Is it like tapping?
Yes.
I think that's you on the chair. I realised like ages after, I was like, that might be on the sound. Oh,
Right. I don't think
Was
it's
it
too.
bad?
No, it's not
Yeah.
too invasive.
Cool.
Or maybe I was just lost in listening to it. We need an intro. Is that our intro? Us having a chat about the sound quality or lack thereof?
yeah, maybe.
Yeah, great. Welcome to One Watched.
Hi.
We watch things, we talk about them. Bit old school. We've done enough to be old school, and then it's just one of us has watched things this time because you've been too busy playing wrestling games.
Yeah.
2K17, heel
Yeah.
or face. That's
Heel,
good guy.
it's more fun.
Bad guy. That means he's a bad guy. Who are you?
I'm me. Well, I'm not me.
You've
I'm-
made yourself,
I'm,
have you?
I'm like a wrestler version of me without my name because it doesn't let you use my name because it's too rare.
What's your name?
It's Tom Hawkins.
Hawkins. Nice.
The
Nice.
unpredictable Tom
The
Hawkins.
unpredictable Tom Hawkins.
Because originally I was basically my goal with it is to play the real classic heel of WWE.
Yeah.
Where it's a heel face.
Mm.
You're a heel, but everyone fucking loves you.
Mm.
And that's how I played it. I started off as a face, and
Yeah.
it was boring because they kept telling me I was too aggressive. Because apparently, if you win matches, that's aggressive.
Nice. Real talk. When I was like 12, 13, I started doing Wii. That's when I first started doing it. And the thing that comes with Wii is the lack of being able to sleep for me. And I used to do online role-playing wrestling federations where you write like promos, and depending on how well they're written, when you go up against people, the admins will decide who wins matches. And I started as a character just called Jake and became incredibly popular on certain scenes, and I even had an imitator called Just Jake who ripped off my gimmick, and then we ended up having a feud with each other.
Nice.
And then I joined like the mainstream fed that's invitation only and was like one of the biggest ones, and they changed it to Jake Steele, Steele, the man of Sheffield Steel, Jake Steele. And I lasted about a month, then got really bored because they were like, you need to do 3 a week at least this many words with this many different words inside each one, no colouring, and I just but I became so good with HTML, I could have like banners going across and change the font and change the italics and change the size for when I was shouting. I became a proper... It's the only time I've ever done any coding. I can still remember some of it. It was like triangle towards the HTML, colour equals red 8 slash of a triangle thing, that kind of shit. Yeah,
Okay.
true talk. Okay, we need to talk about things that... it's me who's watched stuff.
Just
'cause
an
you've
amusing
wrestled.
fact that's related to the wrestling.
Yeah.
First ever wrestling game I played, the original SmackDown game.
Right.
Guess what I named? Like, I didn't know anything about WWE.
Yeah.
I only knew WCW, and I only knew parts of WCW.
Yeah.
Guess what the first character I ever made was called? I didn't even realise.
Stone Cold Steve Tom.
No. Jake the Snake.
Nice.
And his gimmick was he brought a snake to the ring.
Nice.
And then they're like, oh, you made Jake the Snake. That doesn't look like Jake the Snake. I was like, what do you mean it doesn't look like Jake the Snake? It's Jake the Snake. That's what I made.
Just different people having great ideas.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've watched... It's basically 3 things, but they group into 2. Do you want the really heavy, depressing one first, or the slightly less depressing, heavier thing? Not depressing, but heavy. Should we start grim and go up?
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, that's the way to do it.
Cool. Okay, we'll start with... I watched 2 things that link. One was called NOVA, N-O-V-A. It's an acronym. Not quite sure what it stands for. Holocaust on Trial. And then I watched I listened, but it's in a YouTube video, to a follow-up Radio 4 program. To go into what those are before, Have you heard? There's a film coming out. It's not out yet at the time of recording. Called Denial.
No.
Rachel Weisz, isn't it? Rachel Weisz. She was in the Sniper films.
No.
You see her ass in that, and she was in The Mummy.
No.
She's the woman in The Mummy. No. Oh, okay. She's a good
I'd probably
actress.
recognise her if I saw her. But...
British, very good actress. Pretty down to earth from what I understand the story stuff. Anyway, Denial is a film that's coming out that I've not watched because it's not out yet, and it's based on a true story about a historian called Mary Lipsting, and basically, there's a thing about the Holocaust. Did it happen? Didn't it? It did, but did it happen the way it did? Did shit go down the way it did? Did X number of people die? There's various things you can find. Like there's a figure of 6 million. There's historians like Hobsbawm. I studied history for quite a while who say the number's probably more like 4.5 million. But the argument then is like, can you picture 4.5 million? Can you picture 6 million in your head? Can you tell me what the difference is in terms of the acting picture?
I've heard from like 3 to 8. It's depending on who's deciding.
And there comes a number where it goes. But anyway, so there are different people, and there are historians who will sometimes deny the Holocaust or say that it didn't happen. And Holocaust on Trial is based on a actual court case that happened, and I can't believe the guy's name has gone out of my head. I think it's David Irving. It's David Irving. David Irving is a historian who basically wrote the Holocaust didn't happen, and I'm not being generous when I call him a historian because he studied Hitler extensively and had some very interesting things to say about Hitler, but the Holocaust didn't happen, and he used Hitler's writings and stuff. And Mary Lipsting published a book with Penguin Books about how various sort of theories about the Holocaust being a myth aren't true. And the book was kind of more discrediting people and saying the Holocaust deniers rather than really expounding the facts that show the Holocaust happened. But it happened. And he sued her for libel. Now, do you know the difference between America and Britain for libel?
I know that in America it's a lot easier to claim libel. But I don't know the proper reasoning. It's kind of like, isn't in Britain, like, the onus is on the person to prove that the person is liable, whereas America is on the person to prove that they're not liable, or something like that.
Right. If a person claims they've been libelled, in America, the person must prove that they have been libelled against. So if you say, Sam wears women's underwear in America, and I sue you in America for defamation of character, I have to prove that I don't wear women's underwear. In Britain, you have to prove that I do. So if you hear a rumour and you post it, etc., so the burden of proof is very, very different. So in Britain, much harder to defend against. You can be much more aggressive against people who you claim have libelled you. And the historian, David Irving, sued in Britain, and he sued Penguin Publishing, and he sued Mary Lipsting. And what ended up occurring was a trial involving all kinds of fucking experts, from archaeologists to renowned historians, including ones that he summoned to the court in a case. And he represented himself, David Irving, and Mary Lipsting. Basically, the agreement was she wouldn't actually speak. She has a right to not speak in a trial, and she chose not to speak in it. She wanted to, but they said, look, it won't do any good. He's just barnstorming you. And what ended up occurring was this fascinating trial, some of which comes in today, where it's like things David Irving had heard, even after they were discredited, he would still use as basis. And he was there's things like how do you burn a body and keep it going? And he was claiming like the coal chute of Auschwitz could not fit enough coal in to keep the heat going, and it had been disproven because it shows that actually you only need a small fire and body fat. So actually what the Nazis did was literally use the dead bodies. When they burnt them, they weren't burning them to burn the bodies, they were burning them to keep the fire going, to keep the gas going. That was what the oven effect was. It was literally a self-sustaining thing. If we murder these people, we gas them, and then we throw them in. And even Nova's really interesting because it looks at why places like Auschwitz came about. Do you know why Auschwitz was adopted as a policy, like gassing Jews and Romanis and the disabled, etc., and homosexuals was?
Not completely. I know that like they started as like work camps or something, didn't they?
They started as work
They
camps.
weren't meant to be like death camps so much as work camps originally.
They were still death camps. They were gulags, then they were death camps. But the death rate was it was slow for the amount of Jews there were, with the amount of prisons there were. It wasn't just Jews killed in the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Every time I say Jews, I don't actually mean it's just being Jewish product.
Yeah.
And the other aspect was it was very traumatic. There's an anecdote, a story of Hitler where he watched someone's brains get blown out and bits of brains landed on his coat, and he was like, "This is not efficient, and it is affecting my soldiers too much. Watching them shot in the head. We need a more efficient way." And that's when you get the sort of people like Mengele who really came up with the tests on mass execution and stuff. And in the trial, they studied that and they looked at like the layout for Auschwitz. And like I said, David Irving had used this archaeologist had gone to Auschwitz and taken bits off the wall and said, "Oh, there isn't enough, is it sarin gas there? So therefore, like you would expect this much because I've studied it when you're delousing and you use this much gas." And then it turned out, no, you need way less for a human, which is what they'd studied. Yeah. So actually, it's totally discredited. That theory just is discredited. But Irving kept that theory as part of it. But what Irving also did, he speaks amazing German and had done rallies. And he misrepresented certain things and misinterpreted, willfully ignored correct interpretations of memorandums from Hitler and stuff to make it out that actually Hitler wanted to send Jews to Africa and Caribbean islands and give them places like Madagascar. And actually, he didn't know the final solution was going on. And part of the trial was sort of without... it made it clear without doubt that Hitler had to have been aware of what was going on, and Irving even represented himself. I'm not a Holocaust historian, I'm a Hitler historian, and Hitler didn't know about it. And Irving treated it like each witness came up, he would treat it like we are two intellects jousting, but sadly he wasn't quite at the level of the other people. I'm not sure why
I
that
would say
sadly.
At best, like at the very best, Hitler wouldn't know the extent of what was happening. At the very best of his like moral reasoning, like he could be a guy pushing paper at the top, never goes to the camps or anything. I could see that happening, but has no idea that's going on. Bullshit.
My theory of it is slightly different. My theory of it is just he narrowed his perspective. He narrowed his tribe. Yeah. So like if you want to view the whole of humanity as a tribe, like a single race, then something like the Holocaust becomes fucking impossible.
Yeah.
But if you can narrow it down, if you can create an other, and you know, maybe even didn't create it so much as race. He grew up in Vienna, and Vienna was a hotbed for a bunch of anti-Semitic and other aspects. So maybe he just genuinely, he was brought up in this, they are the other, they are not a species, which is also eugenics and racial theory and all that shit. And I think that's how it's possible. I don't think they were...
Dehumanizing, essentially.
Yeah. I think that's how he did it. I don't think it was like he morally had to turn his back or not look. I think it was just... You know, the only reason to not look is culpability, because at the end of the day, murder is a crime, and even genocides get... Well, if you're Native American, perhaps you won't agree with this statement, but generally genocides, they eventually... it turns, and those held responsible are hounded, but not particularly always, just more so in the modern era. But yeah, so this trial is the documentary was made while the trial was going on, but mainly focuses on like aspects and stuff that's said in the trial and debunks some of Irving's myths and does other bits of Irving's things. And it's fascinating. He handed over his diaries, and in his diary he wrote about carrying his 9-month daughter to the shops and coming up with a rhyme which was like, I'm an Aryan child, something I would never be, and he rhymed like Aryan Rastafarian. It became this real racist kind of thing, and that was one of the things the defence did to show like he's kind of racist. How can you promote that except anti-Semitic? Now the second one, the Radio 4 interview, is amazing. It's a year afterwards, and it's an interview with all the major players, including David Irving, including Mary Lipstag, including other witnesses who did, and the fucking judge. It's the first time a judge has ever done, as far as they were aware, a judge has ever agreed to be interviewed about a case he presided over. And one of the things was it was down to the judge's decision. And I am going to spoil this because this is history we're talking about.
Yeah.
This isn't like even if it was a historical reenactment like Denial, maybe I would like, oh, you need to watch this.
Yeah.
But because this is pure history and documentary, I'm going to slightly spoil this. Irving loses. He loses badly, and the judge in his description of Irving describes Irving as a clear anti-Semite who willfully misled about Hitler, etc., etc. He's not been libeled at all. If anything, it hasn't gone far enough. And Irving, like, he plays that off, and he talks about. But what's amazing about this Radio 4 thing, about this trial, is they all have different stories. So Irving's is like he pushed for the single judge because he didn't trust a jury, whereas the defence is like Irving didn't want a judge, he wanted a jury.
Yeah.
And Irving's way he handed over his diaries is just like, oh yeah, I just handed them over, I was happy to. And theirs is like, no, we had 3 months of being stonewalled before the judge put in an order. And the judges remember is, yes, there was some issues about getting evidence and stuff. And it's fascinating listening to these people pull back about and talk about the trial in those terms and stuff. And there's one bit where Irving is talking, and I apologise because I find what he says really ugly, but I'm just quoting him. And he talks about the poem he did with his child. And one of the things in the poem is like, I will never be a half-caste child. And he goes, which is, awful. I disagree with it completely. And the interviewer's like, I'm sorry, what? And he goes, well, half-caste, it's awful. I think it's a real burden on people to have a half-caste child. I just don't agree with it. He's like, I'm sorry, are you saying? He goes, we need to move on anyway. But anyway, they got this poem, and then they made out like I was the worst racist anti-Semite ever. But obviously I wasn't. It was just a jovial little poem that I'd just come up with and da-da-da. And, and he's sort of trying to keep it going, but not great, because he is... The guy speaking is now a discredited historian, basically, whose theories have been expounded and who has, at great expense to himself, been found to be a liar who lied about history and misled and did facts, which I think is interesting in the climate we're in, where certain world leaders and their administrations, just including our own in Britain, facts don't seem to matter as much in claims, or it's it seems more difficult now to debunk claims, even though there's way more study than there was before. So it was really interesting. Like, I find the whole thing fascinating. Obviously being of Jewish ilk, there's a personal connection to things like the Holocaust, and like I'm 30 this year. My dad we're going to go visit Auschwitz, which is where certain names from my family were executed and stuff years before I knew them, obviously.
Yeah.
So I just find it's a really interesting look at what I was taught, the word historiography, the way our understanding of something from a historical perspective changes. Because the truth about history is it's fluid. It's never, like, the Romans were builders, the Romans were slaughterers, the Romans were great generals, the Romans were weak, the Romans were economically amazing, were economically naive. It changes depending on who's writing it and what aspects you want to look at, and they use buzzwords like paradigm to discuss, like, oh, we understand it this way, and then something comes along and now our understanding changes and stuff. So it was just really interesting, like that. Yeah. Any questions on that?
What's it called?
Right. So the first YouTube video is called Nova, N-O-V-A, all capitals. The Holocaust on Trial, or just Holocaust on Trial, one of the two. And that's like the documentary, and I'm pretty sure it's narrated by the original Bilbo Baggins in the Lord of the Rings film, or at least a British guy of that kind of gravitas voice. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It's got stock footage, different interviews. It reenacts the court, because like I said, the court case was going on at the time, so and no cameras were allowed in the court, and it was illegal to show it, so they just transcribed and had reenact. They got quite good actors. I thought they did very well in capturing the mannerisms of the people. Like, I watched David Irving in a couple of interviews, and his mannerism, the actor playing him, basically did the same mannerisms, and I could imagine him delivering the lines exactly as the actor had. I can imagine David Irving delivering the lines exactly as the actor suggested he delivered the lines, etc. So that in itself is a good documentary. And then it's just Radio 4, David Irving, Holocaust, realistic Holocaust trial, something like that. But it's just, that's fascinating, because it's just an hour long. It's really well put together, and it's just interviews, and you can tell it's like interviews in cafes because it's got all the background noise. And I don't know why, I always find those sort of documentaries really fucking relaxing. Like those radio shows where you can hear like humanity in the background. For some reason, they're way more interesting to me than a one-on-one interview in a soundproof studio. Just are, for some reason. Okay, second one. Really glad I can talk about this. You need to watch this. You fucking need to watch this. It's called Legion. It's just started. It's on Sky. You'll probably need to find another way to watch it. It's an FX series, and it's in the Marvel universe of X-Men. So it's the Fox, and it's the first TV series that's set in that universe. But it doesn't go with the X-Men or Fantastic Four, whoever's in that universe. Legion is Adam Haller, who is, in the comics, he is Charles Xavier's son. And the idea is that he's a very powerful telepath, like his dad, but he is basically psychotic. He's schizophrenic, and he's never quite sure what reality is or isn't, etc., etc. And if you've heard of Age of Apocalypse, he's a big part of that background build-up. The TV series is amazing. It's super fucking stylish, and you watch it, and you're not quite sure. I'm very sorry, my phone is ringing, and I will get that in a moment. Yeah. That would be Grace ringing. It's done. You're never quite fucking sure what reality is and what isn't, and it moves around, and then characters appear and stuff. Now, I'm going to say one actor's name, and I know after I say this, you're going to watch this. Aubrey Plaza. Is it Aubrey Plaza?
Who does she play?
Who is she in it?
Does she play Rogue?
No, she's not an X-Men.
Oh,
No. All the X-Men. Don't worry about that. It's in the X-Men universe. Don't fucking worry about the X-Men, though. It's not. It's his own fucking thing.
Because I would watch it if she was playing Rogue.
She's in an institution.
I will watch that
and
too.
she's the crazy girl in an institution. Not the violent crazy, like the cool crazy. And most of it's in the institution, and then there's tons of weird shit going on. The theatre teacher from Community... You know the actor guy who in Community they have
it's
this
like a one episode thing, yeah.
He guest stars a few times. He's in it as like he's interviewing the schizophrenic guy, and he's not quite sure who is or not. There's a bit where he's the main guy who's fantastic looks at like someone. He's like, "You were fucking there, and then later on. He remembers it wasn't him, it was someone else. But because you've seen it as him, you think it's him as well. So you're never quite sure what's real, what's not. Tons of amazing like musical moments. There's a dance number, and you know how I love it. A well-implemented dance number is fucking great. The only bit of Gamer, if you've ever seen that film, I love, is the fucking dance number where we'll watch that one.
I've seen it.
It's crap, but the ending has a dance number. And it's really, really fucking good. And obviously I've not been at my best the last few days. I'm watching like TV... portrayal of schizophrenia and not in the dank dark, like everything's really colourful and it's really fucking good. It's really, really good. I recommend everyone watch it, but especially you, Tom. You'll really, really like it. We're definitely be doing a retrospective on it. I cannot wait for more. It was an amazing first episode, way better than if you said to me, there's an X-Men, there's a TV series of one of the mutants in the X-Men, I would have been that's going to be lame. And it's the opposite, and it's really,
unless it was Nightcrawler.
Even then I'd it's just
if it was the cartoon version of Nightcrawler.
The problem with that is he's way too OP. Like, don't get me
X-Men
wrong.
Evolution, Nightcrawler.
He's still too
I'd
OP. He's still OP. Like, yeah, well, fair. But you'd watch it because you were a massive fan of Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
Not because it's necessarily an interesting TV show. Whereas this was a very well done TV show. The effects were all there, but the story was just, it's charactery and it's crazy
and Aubrey Plaza's in it, so it's worth watching.
Yeah, you will like it. You will definitely fucking like it. The only thing that will hold you back is there's only one at the minute.
Yeah.
But there are more.
And it's on Sky.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you will find a workaround.
Yeah.
Right, that's it. That's my one watch. It's just been me talking about the Holocaust and crazy people. There you go.
Yeah. So, if you're interested in the Holocaust, watch Nova.
It's not interesting in the Holocaust. You won't find out too much more about the Holocaust, but you find out more the mechanics side, which is I find interesting. Like horrific as well, but obviously interesting. Just it's a fascinating trial, and it's a fascinating study of how history is studied, and that's.
And if not, watch Legion because Aubrey Plaza.
Well, you can watch both. It's not an either or proposition, but yeah, Legion.
Yeah.
The first episode of Legion was. It was breathtaking, dude. Yeah. It was fucking breathtaking, and I put it on, and I was sort of like, oh my god, my phone, and I'll do some word games and stuff, and I was like, I'll have it on the background and just listen. I was like, no, I fucking paying attention to this. And partly you have to, but also it's just really, really good. It's just really, really good. That's one of the most exciting first episodes of something I've seen in a long time. Like this, it's up there with things like Breaking Bad and The Wire for me. For wow, how well done was that? I'm not saying it's as good as The Wire.
It's the first episode,
and it's the first episode, but it was a great fucking first chapter for me.
Play.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's it.
That's it. We're out.
Yeah. Bye.
Peace.